Okay, so I'm in Nashville, Tennessee, in a beautiful little coffee shop called Elroy's. We've just had some Elroy's coffee, owned by an Aussie, and I just heard this Aussie accent ordering a coffee. And
that's good to know that I've still got an Aussie accent, because I go home and my family say you don't sound Australian at all anymore. So I'm excited that I still have one.
Yeah. And we started chatting, and it turned out it's Mia Fields, who's a Christian singer-songwriter, used to do a lot of work with Hillsong, written a lot of well-known songs, and I interviewed her on the radio years ago, and she doesn't remember, I remember, and I thought, wow, let's have a quick chat. So tell us a bit of your story. For those who don't know, how did you end up over here?
Okay, well, I was writing for Hillsong. I wrote for them for about 10 years, and probably about 5 years in, I was like wondering if they were being nice to me and I could write songs, or, you know, maybe I couldn't. So I started coming over to Nashville just to try and write outside of my circle, and the first trip I came over, I only knew 3 people because I'd been to a conference over here to talk about songwriting, and I'd met a girl called Carrie Job, a guy called Paul Baloche, and then a band called the Desperation Band. So that was the only people I knew. So I just emailed them and said, hey, this is so random, but if I come over to America, would you guys want to write a song? And they were all like, yeah, great. So we did that, and then I went home, and Paul used a song, and then Carrie used a song. So I kind of took that as a green light from God. So for about 4 or 5 years, I would spend all of the money any money that I made off songwriting, I would spend on coming to America to write more songs. And then after a while, it just got very expensive to go back and forward because I was doing it about 4 times a year. So then I moved over here in 2010, and I've been here ever since. Cool. Writing songs because that's what I wanted to do with my life, and it's nice to be doing that every day. Yeah.
And I know that there's been many songs that we've probably sung in church or we've heard on Christian radio that you would have co-written or written. Is Tremble, is that one of the songs that you wrote on?
It sure is, yeah.
That's one of my favourites. Yeah.
Well, you know, actually that song is, so I was sitting in a conference, and Erwin McManus was preaching, and I was going to be writing with his daughter 2 weeks from that conference. And he was preaching about creativity, but he talked about how he has night terrors and like has nightmares and whatever. And I just felt like, man, we should write a song about that. You know, we should write a song that's like a breakthrough song for him. And I didn't actually, tell his daughter anything, but I went into the right thinking, she can sing over him like David did. And I actually didn't tell her the song was about that moment until about a year later. And then she said, actually, I have night terrors too. And we were just talking about how the power of worship to break that off, So it's kind of what the song is about, just getting free from fear at night, you know?
Yeah, very cool.
So,
and is there other well-known songs people might have sung or heard on the radio that you can name drop for us? Because I've got some in my head, but I just can't remember.
It's so weird when people like list them off. I write kind of half worship and then half, Christian radio. So one of my favorite stories is it's years ago now, but my friend Jonathan reached out, and he was like, hey, I was at home in Arkansas, and I met this guy, and he's 6'4" or 6'5", and he looks like a lumberjack and doesn't have a deal, and he's just a cool guy, and I want to bring him to Nashville to write. And the guy was actually Zach Williams, and the first song we wrote together was Chainbreaker, which was I love that song and I love that story because I love what God did with his life, just from God plucking him out of obscurity, which I think God can do with anyone, and his story is such proof of that you be faithful in the hidden, and God will find you out wherever you are.
Yep.
So I love that story. I guess recently, one song that was a big song that had quite a journey is a song called Peace Be Still.
Hope Dust.
Hope Dust, yep. Which, again, another story of God plucking you out of obscurity. The funny thing was that was kind of one of the first songs that Hope had kind of written in a co-writing environment. And it was with her and actually one of the worship pastors at our church, the Belonging Co. We wrote that song, and then the song actually, we did it at church, and Lauren Daigle carried it. And then, Hope, has a powerhouse of a voice, and she'd always kind of wanted to sing it. And it was funny because, for 4 years, God kind of let her sit on it, and then God, during COVID, it became such a big song on the radio, and just such a sweet moment of like full circle moment for hope as well, that like God hears and God sees and God remembers, and he's going to do it in his time, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Cool. Well, it's awesome to connect with you today. I know you're busy and we don't want to take up your time, but isn't it awesome to see the Aussies over here, you know, the King and Country Boys and Rebecca St. James? It's amazing, isn't it?
And most of them you will find at this coffee shop.
Coffee shop,
Yeah.
okay, it's the place to be. All right, cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
And of course, Henry Seeley and his wife, is it Alex, yep,
Seeley, yeah.
from, I remember listening to him on Youth Alive South Australia when I was a kid.
Oh, I remember the Youth Alive South Australia stuff. Sometimes I'll bring it up with Henry and I'll do a few little Youth Alive South Australia things, but they're amazing. Pioneered an amazing church here. I've definitely been there since the beginning with them, and just to see what God has done is pretty amazing.
And look who's over here too. Jordan's over here. Jordan Grace is going to come over in the interview as well. Hey, bro, how you doing?
G'day, mate. How you going?
Have you guys met before?
No, hello.
Jordan.
Jordan
Mia.
Grace. So his
Nice to
dad's a
meet you.
guy named Steve Grace, who's a singer in Australia. Have you heard
I
of
know
this?
Steve
Yeah.
Grace.
This is Jordan. He's an awesome.
I
know.
literally live just around the corner.
You live around the corner. It's so good.
We all live just around the corner.
Yeah, and he's got a band called Sky Pilot that he travelled around Australia with Will Graham and the Billy Graham Association. So we better stop the interview because I've got to catch up with him next. But really cool to meet you again.
You've got like the best spot in Nashville to come and meet Aussies and do interviews.
It's the place to be, yeah.
I love it.
So
Awesome.
good, yeah.
Thanks so much for having me.
Awesome. Okay, God bless you. Thank you so much. And if people want to find out more, do you have like a website or anything where people can find your stuff, or they just Google?
No,
Mia Fields,
I'm
yeah.
very unfancy.